Hello everyone, and you're watching Truly, Madly, Intentionally Mom, the place where I like to share my parenting experiences to help raise consciousness and intentionality around parenting. Today I welcome you to episode number 3 of the Nurturing Imagination series. This episode is all about allowing our children to explore, creating a space where we can say yes to more and more of their explorations and training our brains to stop saying no all the time. So today I would like to discuss 3 concrete examples of how we could convert a potential no into a yes and create an environment conducive to the budding imagination and creativity of our children. My first example is about babies. When babies start eating adult food, they want to touch and squeeze the food between their palms, and we usually don't allow that, say for fear of mess or for fear of wasting food. And while I certainly believe that we should not waste food, I also believe that that is an experiment for the baby. What happens if I squish cooked carrot between my fingers? It crumbles. What happens if I squish uncooked carrot? It doesn't. If you don't want squished carrot all over your dining table, you could give them some textures to explore at bath time, when the mess can be contained in a bathtub or the bathroom. And there you have a yes space. As soon as little babies become mobile, they want to start exploring, touching and mouthing everything around them. And show me a baby who doesn't want to mouth the dirtiest shoes in the house. And while I think it is completely legitimate to stop that baby from licking every dirty shoe in the house, we could do it by simply putting the shoes out of reach from the baby. And that can be easily done by using a playpen or baby gates and providing the baby with safe objects inside the playpen, such as some simple bowls or baby safe cups and spoons inside the playpen, so they can explore to their heart's content. That way we provide them with a yes space where they can freely explore. And such a space gives them free, uninterrupted spans of experimenting through which they are self-learning. Self-learning helps them to retain what they have learned and relate it to other experiences, thus broadening their imaginative powers. My second example is about mixing. Children often have the urge to mix things together. They want to mix different colors of paint and see what happens. Or they want to mix different colors of Play-Doh together or clay together. For the longest time, I restricted my daughter from mixing different colored Play-Doh together until I realized that that was limiting her scope to create. The first reason I think I was stopping her was that I wasn't being intentional about my responses. And the neat freak in me was impulsively reacting. And the second reason was that I was subconsciously assuming that once the Play-Doh colors are all mixed and the whole thing is a brown-gray mess, my child won't play with it. But I recently learned that the gray-brown gooey mess of Play-Doh doesn't bother children as long as the dough is soft and pliable. So the color of the Play-Doh doesn't restrict their imagination as it does ours. And another ta-da paradigm shift was here, right there. But if you still don't want a grey-brown gooey mess of Play-Doh sitting in your child's play area, you could give them only 2 colors at a time. If you give them, say, red and yellow Play-Doh, however much they mix it, the worst that can happen is that you get orange Play-Doh. And you don't need to stop them from mixing the colors together. Win-win, I would say. My third example is about coloring inside the lines. I'm a huge advocate of not encouraging children to color inside the lines. Most of our generation grew up being taught to color in a picture neatly while making sure that the color stays within the lines of the picture. When my daughter first started coloring, I was curious to find out what I should and shouldn't encourage her to do. I had read from a lot of trustworthy sources that not restricting children's creativity by asking them to color within a set of lines is supportive of free expression, which is what art is meant to be. And instinctively, my heart wanted to follow that advice, and so I did. But only recently, I had a few eureka moments where I suddenly realized why this was so correct. The first one was when my daughter was coloring a dinosaur and she began to paint yellow lines projecting out of his face. Later, she told me that she had imagined that the dinosaur had had his face painted and he had become the sun. And I have shared a similar story in my introductory video of this series. If you haven't watched that yet, I'll paste a link in the description box below. But in the dinosaur example, imagine if I had corrected her the moment her paintbrush touched a point outside the pre-drawn line and asked her to color neatly within. It would have most certainly restricted her from imagining a dinosaur who had become the sun by painting his face. Okay, so now you might say, but does that mean we should completely bury our expectations, say of a clean house, and just always allow them to do whatever they please? No, absolutely not. Allowing children to experiment does not mean that we should allow mess if mess is not our thing. It does not need us to completely sacrifice our needs to allow them the pleasure of experimenting. It only means that we need to put intentional thought into what we want to allow and not allow them to do, and not just react impulsively. It means that we allow them to experiment and self-learn as much as our tolerance and our limits and boundaries will allow. Whatever little we are able to allow will still help broaden their imagination and creative abilities in a big way. We mostly only need to reframe our approach as parents so we can set our children's imaginations free to run wild as they please. To be able to immerse oneself in experimenting and self-learning without having to worry about the consequences is, I believe, the beauty and essence of childhood. Thank you for watching this episode, and keep watching because there's a few more episodes coming in this series. Signing off for now. Take care, everyone.